Perkins waitresses and Percocets are the downfall of Tiger Woods. This is Spoilers.
You're wrong for that. You're wrong for that.
Yeah, it's a little bit mean-spirited, but this is your host, Pappy, the normally mean-spirited one on the podcast. And we had the first time lineup. This would be the first Kylo Pappy episode, but we also have a special guest. We'll get to him in a second, but first, Kylo, let me start with you. I'll ask Johnathan the same question, but who are you? Where are you recording from? Are you a golf guy? And then, so it's a two-parter. Are you a golf guy? And what was your opinion going into this documentary about Tiger Woods? And what was it coming out about Tiger Woods? How did it change your opinion? A lot of questions there, Kylo, but start wherever you want.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's good stuff, though. Yeah, this is Korey recording out of Simi Valley, California. And I am not a golf guy. I'm not super into many sports at all, actually, but golf is one that has definitely been off my radar for my whole life, with maybe the exception of Tiger Woods to some degree, which I guess we'll probably get into later. So my impression of this documentary from like when I heard about it to like when I started watching the very beginning, I was like, okay, HBO Max is trying to do The Last Dance. And I think I even described it to that. I described it as such to a few people. I was like, okay, The Last Dance was really popular. They're like, all right, let's do ours now. Who do we got? Michael Jordan's already done Tiger Woods. But that was just my perspective.
A podcast you also appeared on, The Last Dance. We covered those back in July. Interesting that you've made so many appearances on sports podcasts, not being a sports guy. And when I made my Big Dumb Movie debut, it was on a sports movie.
You got to have the random layman, I think, to give some perspective for the people.
Who is the kid who was like, the dad was like raising his kid to be a football player, stud like Spike or something?
Spike.
Yeah. I
actually took a note that every day Earl Woods massages Tiger Woods' hamstrings with evaporated milk. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, speaking of Big Dumb Movie, though, Johnathan, you're making your Spoilers debut. We've podcasted together many times on Big Dumb Movie. I think most recently on the Santa Claus episode. Same questions to you. We know you're recording with Kylo, but are you a golf guy? And how did this documentary affect your opinion of Tiger Woods?
First off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I am recording out of Korey's house in Simi Valley. I really wanted to go into this with an open mind because all my opinions about Tiger Woods were pretty much media based over the last, 15 years of his turbulent life. So one thing that podcasting about movies has taught me is just to go in with an open mind and make my judgments in the end. So that's pretty much where I stand. I was a bit of a golfer throughout my high school years. I don't really follow it professionally, but I did have a really good time golfing as a young lad.
Didn't you say that you used to golf with your dad until you started beating him and then he wouldn't take you anymore?
That's exactly what would happen. It's like, you little bastard, you start beating me in front of my friends. I'm not taking you anymore.
Imagine if Earl Woods behaved that way.
Yeah, right. At least my dad never came over and pushed my hands and, jingled change in his pocket in my backswing.
Tried to distract you and was generally annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Banged whores in his Winnebago in front of you. Yeah, there's a lot to get into.
He didn't bang any whores. He took them back there for cocktails.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I should mention I'm not a golf guy per se. I don't have a lot of insight into the world of golf. I do follow sports quite a bit. Kyle, it's interesting that you mentioned this is similar to The Last Dance or HBO's version of The Last Dance. A couple of differences, one, obviously Tiger wasn't involved, so I think we get a more real and raw look at his personal life than we did with Michael Jordan at The Last Dance. And two, it's very much a psychological profile of Tiger. It is somewhat an autobiography, but it's more of kind of almost making an argument of this is why the way he is, starting with Earl Woods. I guess, Johnathan, you guys already sort of brought him up. What was your impression of Earl Woods in Tiger?
Man, my initial impression when he talked about him as a young Tiger. I was like, wow, he's a really involved dad. He's pushing his son to do something he really loves. And as this story went on, holy shit, dude. Like, this guy is just, I mean, a monster. I don't really know what else to say. Borderline, like abusive, mentally, not really, so much physically, except for making this kid like repeat his golf stroke 1,000 times a day or something, so I guess that's kind of a physically abusive aspect. But I mean, there's no way that I could ever stand behind Earl as a good father after watching this. I don't think so.
For sure. Yeah, I was thinking of pretty much similar things there. Like, he's kind of a piece of shit. And the reason I think he's a piece of shit is because he really took away Tiger Woods' choice, right? So like one side could say like, oh, well, he helps shape him into this very famous golfer that, is inspirational to millions and et cetera, his legacy, he's a millionaire, et cetera. But Tiger Woods never really had a choice, and that's a problem for me. Like, a child should be able to choose if they want to pursue that on their own or not. And the argument might be said like, well, he would never have done that if it wasn't for Earl. Well, he should be allowed to not do that if he doesn't want to, He should be allowed to go any route he wants.
I'm sorry, but that brings up that point where there was the interview with Earl where he said, well, if he decided he wanted to bowl or he wanted to play basketball or football or whatever, then we would have supported him on that fully. But they never gave him the opportunity to even try anything else
so that
based
was a
on
fucking
this.
Lie.
Yeah, exactly. That was the first indicator that he was full of shit,
We can't dictate to him what he can be and what he cannot be. So as a consequence, what we do is we participate with him in golf. And if it was bowling, we would participate with him in bowling. Each and every one of us has our own life to live. And he has a choice to live his life the way he wants to live his life.
Tiger Woods comes around the corner with a bowling ball, and Earl's like, obviously, you're not a golfer.
That's good.
I think that, like, there's two chapters. The first chapter you could really almost just be called Earl Woods. I feel like he's at the heart of everything. A quote that really stood out to me, maybe we can even play the clip if I can find it.
I know that I was personally selected by God himself to nurture this young man and bring him to the point where he could make his contribution to humanity.
But I know that I was personally selected by God himself to nurture this young man and to bring him to the point where he can make his contribution to humanity. It's almost like Tiger Woods was an experiment. You know what I mean? He wasn't even treated as a human being in a lot of ways. And the pressure that his dad put on him was just unreasonable, right? Like he was expecting him to basically be the second coming of Jesus Christ as a sports star.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And that other part where he says he will transcend this game, it was so factual though. But when you bring about the part where he had like the other military psychologist come out and teach Tiger how to hypnotize himself in order to stay in the zone for that. I mean, really, where was he trying to go with this? I mean, this was just like like you said, an experiment on his own child. Like, how can you be a loving, caring father when you're running a psychological experiment on a freaking kid, man?
Right. I wonder what his end goal really was. Like, was golf gonna like bring about world peace, like rock and roll brings about world peace in Bill and Ted?
Right. Was he expecting like almost like a Muhammad Ali-esque figure? Like, I don't know. It seems like there wasn't enough time spent on morality to have that happen. So, okay, another character that I want to mention, not as predominantly featured, but I'm curious what your guys' read on her is. Tita Woods, Tiger's mom, a literal Tiger mom, if you will.
I don't know. I mean, Tita Woods, she seems more hands-off than Earl for sure, but they do make a point to tell us that she was the other half of it. But despite them saying that at one point, and her saying that, like, you know, I'll spank him if he acts up, even when he's grown or whatever. I never really got the impression that, like, she had the influence over Tiger that Earl did by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like a 90-10 differentiation.
Yeah.
You know, when she spoke about taking him to the golf course or the driving range rather than going to the playground with kids, I think that's more of where her contributions were, or even psychologically her contributions were to look away, even though she knew that Earl was doing whatever it was that he was doing to Tiger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the documentary doesn't really get into to what extent she was aware of Earl's infidelity, but she's definitely complicit, at least in the training and molding of Tiger. One thing I thought was interesting was that she, like, would shit on some of the other golfers, like the documentary mentions. Like, she calls, like, Phil Mickelson, whose nickname is Lefty, like, hefty, and, like, made fun of him for being fat and stuff. Like, it's just pretty ruthless Eye of the Tiger shit.
I gotta have her on the podcast, Big Dumb Movie, man. She'd be a great fit.
She's hilarious. Mean-spirited, just like Pappy.
I had a stroller, a bottle, so I let him hit the ball a little bit. And when he get tired, I give him the bottle and put in the stroller and go sleep.
Interestingly, I listen to a lot of sports podcasts. It's kind of like it's a guilty pleasure, walking around, doing dishes type thing. This didn't make as many waves as The Last Dance, but that's also because this was like released during the NFL playoffs, and a lot of other sports things are happening right now. But the one piece of footage that did seem to break through was like Tiger Woods dancing and his first girlfriend. I thought that she was one of the most interesting parts of the movie, from like her exposure to Tiger to even, you know, the insights that we get from the way that they broke up. What did you guys think about? I don't have her name, but Tiger Woods' first girlfriend that we meet.
That was Dina?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think she was such an influential character in his life. I mean, he found that same type of connection again towards the end. I forget her name at the moment, but the girl with too much plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that similar type of relationship he found with her again, which was where he could be in touch with his own self and his own thoughts and act the way he wanted to. He could laugh. He could have a good time. He wasn't just stuck in the golfing frame of mind. And I'm glad that she was able to provide that type of environment for him.
I think the documentary explains to us that, like, his relationships from the beginning are like a form of escapism. And at the beginning, it's for a good reason. He's escaping all this pressure so that he can escape to a somewhat normal life, and he can do things that he never got to do. She says she took him bowling for the first time when they were like young adults or teenagers.
He was like already in like college, right? Or like the end of high school or something.
Yeah, he was up there.
It's like a senior in high school.
I mean, obviously later he had more relationships to escape other things for different reasons, but I think it kind of started there. And it's the first case of him cutting someone out of his life, which we see a few times in the documentary.
I still don't believe that was him doing that, though. That was obviously forced by his dad and his mom.
For sure.
That letter, there's no way.
I mean, again, I'm very easily manipulated by documentaries, so I kind of just go with the flow when I'm watching it, and I can never really pick up on, like, they're trying to trick me right here. I just can't. Like, I'm so in for documentaries. But that's the way the documentary frames it, and I believe it. So
I feel like the documentary also frames it in the sense that this was almost Tiger's last chance at a normal life, and his parents like shut that door for him. You know what I mean? Kylo, to your point, they don't really give him any choice in the matter. Like the anecdote is that he like spent the night at her house, like coming back from college or something, like a night before he went over to his parents' house, and that was what led to the breakup. I thought it was interesting too that Tiger doesn't seem to have any male friendships. You know what I mean? He has the relationship with his caddy, Steve, another person who he cuts out of his life, but he doesn't, there's no like buddies of Tiger other than like Michael or Charles Barkley that the documentary talks about at all. Maybe that was part of like Earl's, I don't know if you'd call it abuse, but like it's pretty inappropriate, right? For the dad to be your best friend and your coach and like your mentor and your business manager and all of these things.
The thing with them saying that they're each other's best friends and then like
so weird
being interviewed and the interviewer's like, well, don't you think like you should have friends your own age? And like they both just try to find clever ways to get around that question. I agree with you. I think it's weird. I think you absolutely need friends. They shape you as a person, and it's just part of growth.
Yeah, it was totally part of his brainwashing, if you will, to keep him on the course and isolated in order to keep pursuing this dream of being the next Messiah.
And it kind of like bled into Tiger's playing persona too. The documentary talks about it. He never had any camaraderie with people on the tour. He didn't seem to be friendly with people on the tour. Just two quick things from part one. Dina Gravel, that's her last name, Gravel, his first girlfriend, and then Rachel Yucatel was the woman who we see at the end. What did you guys think about that last shot? Because at first I thought it was hilarious, and then looking back, it's like there's a subreddit /r/fuck my shit up. Like she would be like front page of Reddit material, like if she was posted there. Like, and I feel like it's just kind of like, if not exploitive, like you see that woman and you're like, oh yeah, that's one of the women Tiger had an affair with. Like you instantly jump to conclusions.
It's so sad that the settlement money went to her face, you know?
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Is she took that, take what you can get, and she put it right all into her lips, like however many millions.
She was like a really attractive woman in the mid 2000s when they actually had their affair going on. Like all this plastic surgery just really put her over the edge.
I mean, I want to be kind of nice. Like I agree. I think it's really sad when people have a lot of money and they spend it on plastic surgery and it invariably makes them look worse. But maybe it has to do with like psychological damage from being under the lens of the media for so long and so often. Like the paparazzi were particularly mean to her, it seems. Didn't you guys get that vibe? They were like, they're like, maybe you should get an STD check. STDs are a real problem out there. Saying shit like that, it's just...
Everybody got AIDS and shit.
What is this, Showgirls?
One guy's like, are you a fan of the song Ooh Baby, I Like It Raw? And it's like, first of all, it's not even the name of the song. It's Shimmy Shimmy Ya by Old Dirty Bastard, you ignorant paparazzi fuck.
Oh, if she would have said that, that would have just been like a mic drop, dude.
Exactly. Song is playing in the background now of the podcast. I don't know. I do feel bad for her in some respects. You know what I mean? Obviously, she was an adult and she got herself into a situation that had consequences. But yeah, I mean, maybe the plastic surgery was part of that. Johnathan, do you have any remorse for Rachel, or where do you stand on her? She's not likable, but
well, I don't know, man. I kind of have an interesting take on that because I think Tiger really was longing for a genuine relationship with somebody. And with her, he got that same kind of relationship from when he was with Dina, when he was in high school. And the marriage to Elin was just this media driven, sports figure, front face of ESPN and Nike and all these other brands. That was like that fairy tale PR wedding and marriage. So I think he really had the actual relationship he wanted with Rachel. And
potentially a few others.
Yeah, potentially.
We don't get to dive into that as much as
allegedly.
Exactly.
But I don't really feel that she deserved to be criticized and put down the way that she was, because I think that they genuinely had a good relationship, something that was healthy aside from it being an affair.
There's a throwaway line that I wish the documentary would have explored more, that she mentions that, well, she says that like Tiger refers to it as when they hang out, bang, whatever they do, as his downloading time or whatever. That's very
plugging
relaxing.
In. Yeah,
plugging
she called
in.
it plugging in.
And my first thought when she says plugging in is, obviously I'm like, yeah, he is. But it's such a weird way to phrase it.
Hey now.
Yeah.
But there's a throwaway line there too where she says something to the effect of, Tiger Woods would eat cereal and watch cartoons when they were together. And it's like this regression into childhood. Did you guys pick up on that at all? I mean,
Yeah,
one thing I question
sure.
with Rachel. One thing I question with Rachel is, was she special, or did he have these? Because like a lot of the women come forward and say that they didn't think that it was just sex. You know what I mean? And none of them were prostitutes. Or I mean, maybe some of them in Vegas were at the end, but it seems like he had a lot of like an emotional, intimate connection with a lot of these women.
Not a single one of them talked about that type of a relationship with him, though. They didn't talk about him having the comfortability and being at ease enough to like sit there and eat some Fruit Loops and watch Tom and Jerry, you know, like
A couple of them did, but they weren't interviewed directly for this documentary. They showed clips of other interviews, you know?
Yeah.
And I think there was one or two of them that said, you know, he told me we'd always be together and shit.
Yeah,
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily lead to him being like
Breaking out
in
the
that
Fruit-
state of mind and
breaking out the
regressing.
Fruit Loops.
Yeah. Picking all the marshmallows out of the Lucky Charms. But for her to be able to have that type of environment where he could regress and like re-explore the childhood that he so missed, you know, he never had it.
When someone accuses an adult of watching cartoons and being childish, you never know with that, because he might be watching anime or something that's adult oriented. And she's like, oh, this little fucking idiot watching cartoons, you know? Or maybe he's watching Rick and Morty. Who knows?
Yeah. He's like, I just gotta see what happens next time on Dragon Ball Z. They're finally gonna tie up this Frieza line. I know it. This next episode is
Super
so fun.
Saiyan is coming, I swear.
Yeah. The National Enquirer piece, this kind of ties into the Rachel you could tell. He was extraordinarily brazen. I had no sense of like it's not, I guess not blackmail, but you know, the quid pro quo with his men's fitness stuff. Kyla, what did you think of that? That was shocking to me. That I didn't even know that kind of stuff goes on.
Well, I thought that pretty much everything in those types of tabloid papers was just bullshit. Like, I just assumed that off the bat. I guess I'm like Elin in that way. Mm-hmm. But apparently they do find valid, what's the word I'm looking for?
Haven't you ever watched Men in Black, dude? That's where they get all the stories.
Oh yeah, you're right. What do they call it, like the hot
takes.
Yeah.
Bat boy. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that hard for them though. They just had to follow the trail of tampons, apparently.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that was
what
so
the fuck?
gross, dude.
They fucking save that shit. That's some raunchy shit, dude.
I mean, first of all, like, how desperate do you need to be to take the waitress from a mediocre chain restaurant to a church parking lot and pull her tampon out and throw it out the window
He was just
to get
trying,
laid?
He was just trying to make Charlie Kelly jealous.
Yikes.
The waitress.
Do you guys have Perkins out LA way? Or is that a Midwest restaurant?
No.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
It's extraordinarily mediocre fare. I would
Is
say.
it like a Waffle House thing? Because we don't got that either.
It's more like between a Chili's and an Applebee's, I would say. American type stuff. I think they have like a big
that's
dessert.
like the fancy for me. That's like my budget. Like,
Yeah.
Dude, Chili's has a pretty good 2 for $25 meal right there, man.
it's a good night for me.
They're known for their pies and their waitresses, mostly. What did you guys think about the National Enquirer guy? Like, he seemed to delight in the fact that a tampon was recovered from the church parking lot where they were having this affair. I know if Brett was on, he would talk about how much he fucking hated him, because Brett hates the media and free speech and all that. I don't know. What did you think, Kylo?
Well, I think he looks like a fucking doofus. So he stands out from everyone that's being interviewed because he's wearing a big yellow bow tie and he's got like these like old fashioned huge glasses. So he immediately stands out. I don't know if that was a choice by him or the documentary people were like, hold on, we're going to rearrange your wardrobe a little bit so you look like a shitbag. He just seemed kind of slimy to me. I deal with slimy people a lot on a day-to-day basis, and he definitely fits in with one of them. I mean for work, by the way, not like in my personal life.
The spoilers thread is full of slimy people. Is that what you're trying to say?
Deal with them all.
Kylo?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. He's very unlikable, and like I said, the whole like I guess it's like a catch and kill type thing where they caught him in the act and they agreed to kill the story for, I said, a quid pro quo of Tiger doing a cover. of Men's Fitness, like really greasy, like especially like when you see like the cover of Men's Fitness, and I don't know, like he looks kind of dead behind the eyes in that cover. It's very very sad.
It sets the tone in the documentary. It's a really smart idea to show that cover right as they're saying it, because then you read into it really deeply. And yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
100%. I'll skip over a little bit of the golf, unless Johnathan, you have anything. The '08 U.S. Open. Did you watch that at all? That was the one where he was very injured, and he says to his caddy, "Fuck you, I'm winning this tournament." Do you remember that happening at the time?
I remember hearing about it and watching it, but I never really followed golf. But I mean, then again, Tiger kind of made listening or knowing a little bit about golf acceptable to the everyday sports fan. You know, if you didn't even really follow golf, you still knew kind of what Tiger was up to. I didn't know the extent of that injury. And then to watch the injury actually happen when he made that swing, and then watch his golf cleat slip, and then to play through 3 more days of golf with a broken leg.
And they insert the sound of the crunch.
Yeah.
That is definitely...
insert celery sticks snapping in half.
The funny thing is, there's sound design. Someone's actually doing that probably behind the scenes.
Yeah. the ferociousness of this man to like pursue that goal of winning with as much injury as he was carrying was just wild.
It wasn't just 3 more days of golf. It was actually, this is interesting. So it was actually 4 more days of golf, because it went into like overtime, and different golf majors handle their extra golf differently. The U.S. Open just plays like another 18 holes the next day. So he went into Monday having to play 18 more holes. So it's more golf than he would normally play. And after that, it was even tied, I think, for like only the second time ever. So it went into like a 19th hole on like the 4th day of this tournament, and he's just doing this on an injured leg. And there was you're right, especially to me, the more casual sports fan, anytime Tiger would be in contention, it would get a lot of news and buzz, even in a pre-Twitter world, that something cool was happening. But a little bit down the line, the documentary goes more into his injury, which I'm not as interested in. Kylo, do you remember the Thanksgiving car incident, though? This felt like it crossed into mainstream, world news, really. Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing, though. My only exposure to that is through South Park, which is really
the sex addiction episode or whatever.
Yeah. There was an episode where they get the new Tiger Woods video game, and it's just like you driving, and his wife is chasing him with a golf club in the car. And that's the game. That's the new Tiger Woods PGA.
That's so bad.
But where the f*** do you think you're going?
I'm getting the f*** away from you!
Open the door, you mother f***er!
Ooh, yeah, chase after me in the car, Kenny. What are you guys doing? Dude, check it out. It's EA Sports Tiger Woods PGA Tour 11 for Xbox. Stop breaking through the window, Kenny.
So, I didn't really understand what happened. I thought it was more of a physical domestic dispute where there was, potentially domestic violence just off memory and from that South Park episode. I didn't know exactly the way it went down until watching it in this. And even this is a little bit unclear, but they do give us, I guess, some shades of what they tell us in South Park. They have, a weird CGI recreation that was probably pulled from some news channel. Right?
Right. Yeah, it was some Chinese news recreation.
Yeah, CGI Tiger Woods is being chased by a CGI wife.
That was one of the best parts of the whole documentary. I laughed so hard at that.
It's so awkward.
Is it as awkward as the apology though that he issues? The documentary goes out of its way to it inserts opinion a couple times. One of it, I feel like the documentary has a sense that the apology was a mistake. It's certainly extraordinarily uncomfortable to watch even now. The people in the crowd are, a lot of them have their eyes closed or are looking at the ground while Tiger's making the speech. I don't know. Johnathan, do you think that was a good move? The apology press conference?
I think he had some pros and cons right there. First of all, I don't think he needed to publicly address the issues that he was having in his life and apologize for that to anybody except for the people that were involved. So it was kind of a bad move. But then again, at the same time, he also needed to save face with all of his sponsors, all of the companies that he had major contracts with. He had to save face with the golf association. It's like, so how do you go about that doing it privately? Like they all would want something public to be done. So I think he did it from a career standpoint rather than a personal relationship standpoint.
Mm-hmm. I can only assume that the sponsors made him do that, you know?
Well, it was his like PR, agent that would have to make that call for him. But the PR agent probably had tons of pressure from everybody.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Pappy? Do you think that was on his own volition or not?
Well, he still lost a lot of sponsors because of it. From what I know outside of the documentary, that there was a lot of contention within Tiger Woods' many PR people and publicists and lawyers and Nike and, like you said, the PGA too. There wasn't a united front necessarily that this was the right thing to do. I don't know. I don't know if it was the right thing to do in the sense that like it didn't seem to help. You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone really heard that and thought differently of Tiger Woods. What I do think was over the line was the Billy Payne, the Masters chairman or the Augusta guy, when he was totally like accosting Tiger Woods. I thought that was extremely inappropriate for like the chairman of a sports tournament to step in. I actually want to backtrack real quick too, because Brian Gumbel talks about that. Brian Gumbel, famous HBO Sports, hosted Real Sports, or still does for many years on HBO.
Famous Dave Chappelle reference.
Exactly. Yeah. What is the reference, Kylo? Do you remember?
It's like Wayne Brady. He says he makes. It
makes Brian Gumbel look like Malcolm X.
There it is. Thank you.
Is what it is. Yeah. So I actually do want to talk about the race thing a little bit. Like I said, the documentary inserts itself not very often with an opinion, but it definitely has the opinion that so back in his 20s, Tiger Woods said on Oprah that he identifies basically as his own made up race called Caucasian, which is a combination of Asian, Caucasian, Black, a couple other things. Native American. He's got a United Nations of ancestry. This was very disappointing to a lot of people in the Black community. Like I said, the documentary echoes a lot of those voices, and then sort of the other side is represented by like one kind of jerk off guy on some ESPN show who's like, "Hey, why has Tiger Woods got to choose?" And then he gets like shot down by like three other people. My only criticism is I think that this is a more nuanced conversation than the documentary gives it credit for. I'm not even saying that I disagree with them that they're or that they're in the wrong to be disappointed by Tiger Woods saying that, but I just feel like the documentary didn't treat it with any nuance, and I'm sure if this would be something that Tiger Woods was involved in, that he would have something to say to that point. You guys don't have to touch that if you don't want to, but did you guys have any thoughts on the whole sort of Caucasian part?
Yeah, I think it shows his age when he says that, because he was very young. Mm-hmm. And I think as he experiences the world more, he moved away from that and kind of didn't become a thing anymore. I think it is, me personally, and I'm not saying I'm right about this, I think it is a little bit naive of him to move away from the label of being Black, because, and it's addressed in the documentary, and unfortunately this is the way of the world, this isn't my opinion, but that's the way he'll be treated as a Black man.
Right.
And, to come in and say, well, I'm not actually totally Black is, I just think, a little bit naive. But again, just my opinion. Don't get mad at me, please.
Well, I think Brian Gumbel kind of touched on that too, where he talked about his grandkids who were half Black and half white, I believe. And he said, well, yeah, my grandkids are going to identify as Black, because if anything is going to happen, then they're the ones that are going to be called out because of their race. They're going to be called black.
Right. They're going to get the unfortunate negative repercussions that sometimes come with being non-white.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only counterpoint I would have to that is I'm not a big slippery slope guy. I don't like to deal in hypotheticals, but it does make me uncomfortable that we have a group of, external people saying, based on your phenotype, based on the way that you look, you're a this, and you got to say that you're a this. You know what I mean? And then there's just no voice of Tiger Woods in that. I totally get that the broader historical implications of who Tiger Woods was and what he was doing for the sport of golf, but I don't know. I just thought that the counter argument deserved a little bit better than that one like weird guy going, "Hey, come on, what's wrong with Tiger having to choose?" But I don't know. There's only really two more points that I want to hit.
I think Johnathan had a quick thing.
Oh, go ahead, Johnathan. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I felt like with today's issues that are currently being covered in the media with the race cards and all that kind of thing, if Tiger Woods wasn't the brand of Tiger Woods, when he got pulled over in Florida, how differently do you think that would have been or could have gone?
Like if he wasn't the public figure of Tiger Woods?
Right. If he wasn't the brand, if he was just an assumed black guy and obviously impaired.
Right. It might not have been as pretty is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And imagine, just his life could have taken a totally different turn at that point.
Mm-hmm. And Brian Gumbel even says something similar along those lines too. It's, when something bad happens, and I think even Wanda Sykes has it in her stand-up set when they're showing like that reel of Tiger being made fun of, that as soon as something bad happens, it's going to be, black golfer does this. And Brian Gumbel says, growing up, there was always this thing that you hope the person at the guilty party in a story that wasn't black, just because, it would be used as ammunition, against you by racists down the line. But Johnathan, you touched on the DUI, man, it's a low point of the documentary. It comes about, 4.5, or what would that be, 3.5 hours into this 4-hour documentary.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, what were you guys' thoughts seeing definitely the low point of Tiger's life unfold?
One thing that always comes to mind when you hear about celebrities or athletes, actors, whatever it is, and they're all of a sudden 5-6 opioids deep on this addiction. Who the hell is looking out for these guys, and who the hell is just turning their eye and allowing this to happen? These people, if they're that valuable to their, PR teams, careers and futures, then why would they allow these people to go down such a slippery slope of opioid addiction? Because they know it's happening and they're just turning cheek.
It is strange that his addiction, to me, it felt like very much of a secret thing. His drug addiction, not his sex addiction.
But somebody had to know that it was happening.
I guess you're right.
Somebody had to. There's no way that you could be stuck on 5 opioids and be Tiger Woods and nobody freaking know.
Right. I guess I see what you're saying. To us, the viewer, when he gets the DUI or DWI, and he goes to court, and then shortly after that, he goes to drug treatment. I had never heard anything in the documentary before that he was a drug addict. So it was just strange. As a viewer.
Well, that was because that same year was when he had several back surgeries and back fusions and stuff like that. And they talked about him, taking all the, painkillers.
I see.
That.
But a recent thing.
So it was,
recent development.
It was within the year, because his ACL was totally missing. He had the knee repair. He had the back fusions. He was going through some shit, man. And his body was just ruined from hundreds of thousands of golf swings.
His dick was still working though.
Yeah, it was.
Overtime.
Opioids can't slow Tiger's dick down. But you do wonder, was it like a Conrad Murray situation that the guy was Michael Jackson's doctor? Is it just someone who's just kind of writing him this blank pad? And even moreover, if Tiger's on Ambien and all these prescriptions, why is there not some sort of assistant, handler, someone in between his bedroom and his car keys, to prevent him from wandering out of the house, because I mean, lots of people have sleepwalking things on Ambien. I'm sure if you throw in those other drugs, but it's really hard to see like the mugshot of Tiger Woods. Him, the police officer pulls him over. He tells him to say the alphabet without singing it, and then he asks him to repeat back the instructions. And Tiger Woods says something like, "Don't sing the national anthem backwards." It's really it's disenchanting and just difficult to see someone in that situation, especially after all they've been through. Did Kylo, though, as not a golf guy, I don't know if you remember us talking about it in the Spoilers group thread when Tiger Woods was making his Masters run. Did you feel a sense of redemption in the last 20, 30 minutes of the film? Because it's a gift to these documentarians, right, that this even happened, because it's a perfect ending. I don't know what it would have looked like ending without that.
Right, and it goes to show how recently made this was.
Right, yeah.
I mean, this was literally like a year ago. That ending was a year ago.
Yeah.
March of 2019.
Yeah. We're not counting March 2020 until now as a year.
Yeah, it's still March
It'll be
2020
stricken from
in
record.
my book. Yeah.
Well, I did think it was a good ending for this documentary to show that he was able to come back. It was unclear to me as a viewer if he ever beat that Jack Nicholson guy, but
he has not.
Nicholas.
Yeah. Jack Nicholas?
Yeah. He has yet to take over. Yeah. He has yet to take over the record. He's got I think he needs four more majors.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
3 more.
That's kind of a lot.
Jack Nicholson. Did you ever dance with a Perkins waitress in the pale moonlight?
I just asked that of all my prey.
Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I do like seeing him succeed. That is really cool to see after going through so much trouble. I can appreciate that as a fellow addict, coming off of that. And it's good to see that he was at least seemingly closer with his kids than he was previously. They seem to be, a big part of his life. And he seems to interact with the other players better. And again, this is all just stuff the documentary is pointing out to me. So this could just be one-off stuff. I could be being totally manipulated.
I think you could take it as face value on that one.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, totally a changed person after coming back into the PGA. Seeing him enjoy the game for the first time rather than being out for blood. It was really cool to see that. Side note, Did you catch the reference in there where he talked about why he always wears that maroon, dark red colored shirt?
No.
Yeah, he wore that color for almost every major. That was because he was out for blood. That was the color of blood. And that was his reference. That his dad instilled that upon him.
Nice.
His tiger mom probably had a little bit of a hand in that too. Yeah, I wonder sometimes, and I think, I think it's unfair sometimes that the media and marketing companies have, and Jim Nance at the end of the Mansers portray this narrative that all's well with him and his kids. I'm not going to play body language doctor, but I watched that golf tournament very closely and the celebration very closely. I didn't get the sense that his daughter is as on board with the Tiger situation as his son. I felt actually a little bit bad that she was out there. I've never heard anyone else say that. That might just be me, but I hope the kids get the space and they're not, forced to be like, oh, everything's hunky dory now by Nike money. But I don't know. That's pretty much it. It was a really good documentary in my opinion. I don't think I have any final thoughts really. Did you guys have anything that we didn't touch on? I'm just going back through my notes.
Did we make the It's Always Sunny joke that one of his favorite things to do is banging whores?
Banging whores. I kind of did with Earl Woods, but no,
Okay.
It's good to bring up.
It was definitely Earl's favorite thing.
Yeah, I guess that's genetic.
Yeah.
Banging whores is genetic.
Yeah.
You get that gene passed down.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the Army thing? Speaking of Earl Woods, that was a big part of Chapter 2, his obsession with doing Army stuff.
I think it's interesting that someone for fun participates in the exact thing that would be my very nightmare. He's not just doing your generic Army boot camp shit. He is doing Navy SEAL training, which just sounds horrifying when they describe it to you. They described one of the things that, and plus I've seen G.I. Jane, That's some. I don't want Viggo Mortensen trying to rape me, okay? But one of the things is like they put a bag over your head, and they take it off, and they're presented with just a situation that you have to react to, which is usually just people beating the shit out of you.
Dude, that was just his like BDSM Wednesday nights, man.
Right?
Like, that was no different for him. But you know that what's interesting about that whole military training thing, like it's really not that far off, man, because like Earl was a Green Beret and his job in Viet fucking Nam was to go
Damn Nam's what happened.
was to go behind enemy lines and like plant C4 and blow up C4. Yeah, C4. I don't want that. Was to go behind enemy lines and blow up like army bases, the Vietnam army bases.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like everything that his dad ever did, he did. Mm-hmm. It's so wild.
Well, it's even down to like when in Vegas, which this movie or this documentary, I feel like it almost blames Las Vegas for a lot of things. Like even when they're showing like Las Vegas, this like ominous music is playing while they're doing this establishing shots of the city. It's like, well, you know, he made a lot of choices there. Like just because the temptation exists doesn't make the city inherently evil.
Vegas is just the land of opportunities.
Exactly. Yeah. But like even like when they're talking about like how he's having sex with 10 women at a time, like towards like the height of his sex addiction, like they're all kind of like these blonde young women, which is the exact way that the golf pro at the Navy Club describes it, the women that Earl would have sex with. So it's like almost like
exactly
to a T. Like, yeah, he's having like, it's so well done in that sense, like painting the parallels between what Earl instilled and what Tiger became. But let's go ahead and jump into yes or no's. I'll go first real quick. I'll give both chapters hard yeses. Thought this is like very superior to The Last Dance. I'm only comparing the two because, you know, these are the last two sports documentaries we've done on the pod, but I think not having the athlete as the head executive producer makes a big difference in the outcome of the storytelling. The only thing that I felt was missing or weirdly omitted is that Tiger Woods had a very high-profile relationship with Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn, basically in that kind of drug addiction time. I don't know if it ended right after that or right before that, but I thought that was weird. It was a very high-profile tabloid relationship with another famous athlete. The documentary didn't touch that at all, but other than that, I was very satisfied with everything that we got to see. Like I said, it's very much a psychological portrait of why Tiger Woods the way that he is. I'm sure that Tiger Woods has some sort of deal with a media production company and that he's going to come out with his version of this story where he has all the creative control. And it will be interesting to see, you know, like the delta between Tiger's version of these events and HBO's version of these events, but definitely worth the 4 hours or whatever it is to check out. I don't know who's weastest. Johnathan, you're the guest. Why don't you go ahead and go next? We do yes or no here on Spoilers, not any rating scale that you like, unfortunately, unlike Big Dumb Movie. But
yeah, no worries. I actually am weastest compared to where Korey's house is, so that works out. I'm like a mile from the ocean, so that's cool. So this is going to be a Tiger Woods in 2008 in Vegas hotel room hard yes for me.
Wow.
I laughed, I cried, I got the chills in some of this story. I learned and understood the story that they were trying to tell. Whether or not that's exactly the truth, I don't know. You know, that it's his, hers, and the truth. We all know that about documentaries. Mm-hmm. It's obvious where he was just abused as a child and forced by his dad to do this thing called golf. And I don't agree with anybody that says that it was okay to force that upon him. It's obvious that it developed Tiger into this phenom on the course. But off the course, man, he's just a man, and he made mistakes that we see in our lives all the time. And is just elevated because of his celebrity status. but just, the magnitude of his relevance to sports, media, marketing, businesses, it's just so elevated that he could never just be treated as a regular man, no matter what. And it would be nice to see in the future how he overcomes everything and gets back to a real genuine person and be there for his kids. And whether or not he's ever married again or has another committed relationship, we'll see about that. But as long as he can end up being the best father that he can be for his kids, then I'm going to be good with that. But at the end of the day, it's all just it's a really shitty price to pay for being such a prodigy to the game of golf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that you said that he was elevated to such a level. Growing up, it was like after Michael Jordan retired, it felt like there was always kind of this like looking for the next biggest sports athlete, and then Tiger Woods instantly filled that void. Johnathan, you might be the next biggest Spoilers guest. You had a great appearance today. It was great having you. But the next best new Spoilers host who we added, our most recent host, Kylo, bring us home here. What do you give chapters 1 and 2 of the Tiger Woods HBO documentary?
Well, first of all, that was very well said, Johnathan. I agree with a lot of that. I'm going to give this documentary a hard yes, thoroughly enjoyable, but I got to admit I am very distracted by something Pappy said a moment ago about Tiger Woods' response movie. I can't help but think of the Michael Jackson situation. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was the Michael Jackson documentary where a documentarian came and moved in with him for a while and released this documentary on Michael Jackson that just made him look fucking awful. So Michael Jackson had this biopic made in response, which also didn't make him look very good either. It was kind of funny. You could tell he was trying, but like things were mishandled in some areas, I just gotta say. But that's really on my mind. I want to see Tiger's like response biopic where someone else plays him and et cetera, et cetera. It's a really good documentary though. And I love documentaries a lot. So I'm pretty much in for any of them. I never really know how true they are in the end or not in a lot of cases, but I just think it was very interesting and very enjoyable. And to quote Casey Jones, I'll never call golf a dull game again.
There you have it. 6 yeses. That makes Tiger all the episodes preserved. Again, Johnathan, thank you for coming on Spoilers. It was great to have you. I love podcasting with you over on Big Dumb Movie. It's even more fun to podcast with you over here. Any final words, Johnathan, that you want to say before we toss it to Spoiler Man?
Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. It was a good time. There was only one more question I had was, did you guys catch like how much home video of Tiger was out there? Like as a child though, like who was there recording this stuff like all the time? They never talked about where all of this home video came from, Like it just seemed kind of weird that his whole life was basically documented since he was 10 months old.
I was thinking about that as I was watching this as well. Like, how did those get out there? And I could only assume in things that occurred before this documentary, like they gave them to like the news, or they gave them to
not so much how did the footage get released, but who was doing the filming? Was it his mom? So maybe I just thought about that. Maybe her involvement was way more into it than we ever thought.
Yeah, it was behind the camera.
Yeah.
It was a waitress from Perkins, and that's kind of where the whole thing started from him from a very young age. But thank you for listening. I don't know what's coming down the pipe, but because I don't know when this is going to come out. But in the meantime, Spoiler Man will tell you how to get a hold of us. Take it away, Spoiler Man.
Special thank you to our patrons, Nick, Druid King, Brother Brian. If you would like to help Spoilers continue to make podcasts, please consider going to patreon.com/spoilerspodcast. Our email is podcastspoilers@gmail.com. Twitter is @spoilers_pod. Our Instagram is podcast spoilers. It's lit.
Pappy, there?
Hello?
Hey, I can hear you now.
Oh, hello.
My thing was without power.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you either.
Johnathan was just telling me how nervous he is.
Oh no! Why? Why do I make you nervous? Kylo, you're like too much pressure to do a Kylo Pappy pod. And I'm like, oh great. That makes me feel good.
I feel like with something like this, like something completely out of my wheelhouse, like the less I have to say, the better.
Well, this is totally out of my wheel. That's why we need Stevie. Stevie's the golf guy. What was that?
Stevie's the golf guy? God damn it.
Is Johnathan like off mic or something? He sounds...
He is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have my mic set up. I'm late, dude. I just
got here. I don't know if he can hear you.
No, you're good. I can like barely hear you. I wasn't meaning to like...
He's probably picking up from mine. You'll have to switch yours on as well.
Yeah, I'm setting up. Hang tight, big dog.
I'm hanging tight.
All right. I'm getting dialed in here.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Hey now. Yep.
Was that stupid ass Verizon commercial? Can you hear me now? Sprint.
Shit. I dated a girl, well, for a long time, that like really was just tickled by commercials. Like she would constantly bring up how funny she thought certain commercials were, and I just hated it. It was like a real point of contention in our relationship.
Commercials aren't a part of my life like anymore at all.
That's
and
me.
It's great.
From the end.
See, that's confusing because this is plugged in over there and yours is plugged in over here.
No, this is actually the input.
Oh, that's our input.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's dumb.
It is weird, like, because they don't. You're right. I always like get fucked up.
Yeah.
Plus, it doesn't have actual numbers. Like the word one is ONE. It's there, so it's like it's not the number. It's like spelled out, and it's dark. It's hard to see.
Oh, they're on the bottom.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I was just talking about my setup.
The mic volume
it's
controls.
Confusing.
Yeah.
We could understand why our early episodes were so fucked up all the time.
They weren't that bad.
Compared to the newer episodes, yeah.
It wasn't
like if you listen to like episode 1 and then you listen to episode last week, it's like...
Yeah, I really try to discourage any new listeners to start with episode 1. Like
yeah.
Actually 1 or 2. I'm like, go in anywhere you want, just don't do 1 or 2.
Is 1 Spider-Man 3 or is that like the preview episode?
1 is Fast and Furious.
Okay. 0 is like Spider-Man 3 or whatever.
Yeah, and I might one day like fix, re-edit, and like make Spider-Man 3 into a workable episode.
See, I wish we had
the BDM remastered edition.
Exactly.
The special editions. BDM.
Yeah, right. Director's cut.
Steve wouldn't let me call it that. I'm sure of it. If you want water, there's one for you, by the way.
Oh, actually, let me get one of those real quick. I'll be right back. The water.
Yeah, we don't have a water for you, Pappy.
Yeah, figures. Typical.
Yeah, I gotta do that Spider-Man 3 thing at some point.
Well, it's not like you're already doing 40 hours a week of editing, plus 40 hours a week of work.
44 this week, but yeah.
Oh, that's it? 44?
Yeah.
Dude, those are rookie numbers, dude.
They won't let me work more than 4 hours overtime.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Dude, the last 2 nights, I worked until like, well, not last night, but the 2 nights before, I worked until like 9 o'clock at night. It was gnarly.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. I mean, that's why I moved it.
Yeah. We were putting this new, like a circuit breaker panel in this guy's house. And it's a brand new technology where all the circuit breakers connect to Wi-Fi, and then there's a monitoring system.
Oh yeah,
so
you were telling me about it.
Yeah, so you can monitor.
But you were saying it had to be wired.
No, this is totally different. The one I was talking to you about was like it was a solar project and whatever.
Oh, okay.
But this is a new one. So this is like every circuit breaker in your house, right? Like every breaker that monitors or that's connected to your plugs, your fridge, your oven, lights. I mean, like everything in the entire house, right? You can it reports back to this app, and you can see how much power you're consuming. You can see all time how much power you're using or conserving. So you can remotely deactivate breakers.
Because the monitoring tool makes this available? Like the monitoring hardware?
Each breaker has a
modem.
Basically, yeah, it's Wi-Fi capable. Each breaker, including their.
Well, it's probably a modem, right? It probably converts it into digital, like
whatever. I don't know exactly.
That's really
I don't know
cool.
this. I don't know the big details of it, but I know that that's how it works. And then the app on your phone corresponds with the panel, so you can check for power consumption, arc fault tripping, or
That's
ground fault
really
tripping.
Cool. Is that like a thing that comes with like new houses?
No, it's brand new, dude. It's like $8,000 to put this thing in your house.
But it'll probably be one of those things that'll be.
It's a thing of the future for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of new builds, new houses, like big money houses, they're putting stuff in like this.
Walt Disney tech. Houses of the future.
I know, right? Steamboat Willie.
Couldn't you just like use like a smart plug and like just stick it in your outlet and have like the same like measurements? Or is that?
Yeah, essentially. But this goes actually back to the main circuit panel. So you're getting all the information,
More sophisticated information.
Yeah. You're getting the full AC flow on each circuit, as well as like dedicated circuits for your fridge, your oven, your stove, and everything like that. Washer and dryer. I mean, every part of the house that has a dedicated circuit goes through there. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's like one of those like mysteries of life.
Yeah. Then like, okay, so say you're on vacation because you're a big baller and you're on vacation for a couple months and you go, oh fuck, I'm not going to be home for 3 months, so I need to turn my pool shit off. You can deactivate your pool breaker from right there, and then you're not running your pool filter and all that crap for no reason. Your pool heater,
Oh man, I could hear that. I can feel the conspiracy theorists freaking out about this.
Right.
This is like a dad's wet dream everywhere. Like, you left your light on for too long yesterday.
All right. I think we're ready.
Test. Yeah, let me test.
How am I sounding? Am I right?
I was recording earlier to get your level.
Oh, you did?
I was, yeah.
Oh, cool.
While you were talking about it. Yeah, and I think we're still good from the other day.
Oh, good.
So since it's the three of us and the two of you together, I'll probably just like say things like, what did you guys think? Then either one of you just jump in, and I have like a few topics to talk about, but there's a lot of ground to cover.
Go like this if you want to take the mic, and I won't talk, and I'll do this.
I'm really curious to see what you say though, because you're not the sports guy. You know?
I mean, I probably not as much to say as you, so I'm going to lean on you a little bit. But yeah, so that way we don't interrupt each other, because it's going to be probably a little bit trickier for him to edit because it's two people on one track.
Yeah,
because he can't. Good. All right, cool.
I mean, are we gonna like go through these like chronologically, or is it just gonna kind of like bounce around, or you have?
I think we're gonna bounce, right?
Yeah, mostly bounce. Like, my topics are kind of chronological, but like, for example, starting with like Earl Woods, I would say let's just talk everything about like Earl Woods. You know what I mean? Like, he's like the first thing.
Yeah,
that I have.
All right.
And then
it's gonna be less linear than a Big Dumb movie for sure.
Yeah, documentaries are kind of hard, but they're fun.
Yeah.
Golf guy, I'm ready. You guys ready?
Yeah. Make sure you're not too loud on the mic so it doesn't get picked up, or on the headphones. I mean. All right.
I'm still on number 1, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What'd you say?
Go. So you can count us down.
Okay. On go. 3, 2, 1, go.
That was spoilers.